Have you ever noticed how silence feels different when you're alone? Sometimes it's peaceful, sometimes it's unbearable. Because silence doesn't just remove the noise around you, it removes the noise within you, and in that quiet, you start to meet the person you've been running from, yourself. You begin to see the truth about your habits, your fears, your attachments, your need for approval. You realize how much of your life has been spent trying to be seen, trying to be understood, trying to be accepted. And somewhere along that pursuit you forgot what it means to stand on your own. You were taught that strength means having people beside you. That validation means you're worthy. That being surrounded by others means you're safe. But there's a different kind of strength, one most people never touch. It's the strength of solitude, the kind that doesn't need an audience to feel real. Walking alone is not about isolation. It's about independence. It's about learning to move without applause, to grow without validation, and to rise without being seen. Because when you walk alone, you begin to understand something profound. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to push you. No one is coming to fix your discipline, heal your mind, or silence your chaos. And that realization hurts at first. It burns through your comfort like fire through paper. But that same fire, if you endure it, will forge you into something unstoppable. You see, solitude is a mirror. It doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter. It reflects your strength and your weakness in equal measure. And most people can't handle that kind of honesty. That's why they distract themselves. With noise, with company, with endless movement that leads nowhere. They'll say, I can't be alone. What they mean is, I can't face myself. But those who dare to face their own reflection, those who can sit in silence without needing to fill it, those who can walk alone without fear of being forgotten, they begin to unlock something extraordinary. The ancient Stoics knew this truth well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He wasn't telling you to run from the world. He was telling you to build a world within yourself that cannot be shaken by it. Walking alone doesn't mean rejecting people. It means returning to yourself. It means realizing that no amount of external approval can replace internal stability. It's the art of standing so firm in your values that even if the whole world walks away, you don't fall. But make no mistake, this path isn't gentle. It demands that you outgrow versions of yourself you once loved. It asks you to be okay with losing people who can't walk at your pace. It challenges you to stay calm when no one notices your effort, when no one praises your progress, when no one believes in your vision but you. It's a lonely road, but it's also the only road that leads to true freedom. Because when you learn to walk alone, you stop being afraid of losing anyone. You stop being controlled by the need to belong, and you start to move with quiet power, the kind that comes from knowing that your peace, your discipline, your direction depend on no one but you. That's where your transformation begins, not in the crowd, not in the noise, but in the solitude where you finally stop pretending. Because solitude strips away illusion. It removes everything that isn't essential, leaving only truth. And in that truth, you begin to build brick by brick the version of yourself that no longer breaks under pressure. There comes a moment when the silence no longer feels heavy, when the loneliness turns into clarity, when you stop waiting for others to join you on your journey, because you realize they were never meant to. This is where the path of self-mastery begins, not in approval, and not in attention, but in stillness, the stillness of walking alone. So, as the noise of the world fades, and you find yourself face to face with your own thoughts, don't run. Stay, listen, because the person you become in that silence will be the one who no longer needs the world to feel whole. And that, quietly, is where you begin to become unstoppable. There's a reason why solitude has always been sacred to those who seek mastery. Because in silence, the mind begins to show you what truly drives you and what quietly controls you. When the world falls quiet, your distractions lose their disguise. You start to see the truth beneath your habits, your cravings, and your impulses. The Stoics understood this. They knew that solitude is not the absence of others, it's the presence of clarity. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself," and that mastery begins the moment you stop seeking permission to be who you are. You see, the crowd teaches dependence. It teaches you to seek validation before movement, to wait for approval before taking a step, to feel worthy only when someone else says you are. But solitude reverses that conditioning. It forces you to look inward for strength. It breaks the chains of comparison, the hunger for recognition, the addiction to being seen. When you walk alone, you start to lead yourself not because you're better than others, but because you finally trust your own direction. Walking alone is the discipline of returning to your principles when the world distracts you. It's choosing calm when others choose chaos. It's keeping your word to yourself when no one's watching. It's saying no to the noise so you can hear your inner order. And that's where power lives, not in dominance, not in attention, but in self-command. The Stoic doesn't chase control over others. He masters control over himself. He learns to walk through noise without becoming it, to stand in storms without losing his footing, to keep peace not because life is gentle, but because he is grounded. There's a hidden strength in being misunderstood, in walking a path few understand. Most people fear solitude because it confronts them with their emptiness, but the Stoic embraces it because it refines his purpose. He knows that comfort is often the cage that keeps people average. He knows that freedom is found not in comfort, but in clarity. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And the greatest waste is not time spent alone, it's time spent lost in the crowd. Because when you're constantly surrounded by voices, you forget the sound of your own. Solitude sharpens you. It trims away what's false and forces you to build what's real. It makes your thoughts cleaner, your emotions calmer, your actions more deliberate. And slowly you begin to see life differently. You stop reacting to everything. You stop chasing everyone. You stop explaining yourself to those who don't understand your silence. Instead, you move with a calm certainty. You begin to act out of purpose, not pressure. You speak less, but when you do, your words carry weight. Because silence has taught you what noise never could. That power is not proven, it's preserved. People think walking alone means rejection. But the truth is, it means redirection. When you walk alone, you're not moving away from others. You're moving toward your higher self. The one who doesn't crumble when plans fail, the one who doesn't beg for love or chase validation, the one who knows that peace is not found in being surrounded, it's found in being centered. In solitude, you learn to value stillness more than attention. You start to see that chasing validation is like chasing the wind, endless, empty, and exhausting. And so you stop chasing, you start building, you start mastering, you start becoming. Walking alone teaches you detachment, not from people, but from outcomes. You learn to give your best effort without needing reward, to show up every day without waiting for applause, to do the right thing even when no one sees. That is the essence of Stoicism. Acting with virtue, not vanity, and something remarkable happens when you live that way. You stop fearing loss. Because you've already learned to stand without support, you stop fearing failure. Because you've already learned that progress doesn't need witnesses. You stop fearing being alone, because solitude has become your sanctuary, not your prison. So when others run from silence, you walk toward it. When others chase approval, you choose purpose. And when others break under pressure, you remain unshaken, because you no longer draw strength from what is temporary. That's the Stoic truth. The one who walks alone is not lonely. He is becoming powerful beyond measure, because his peace no longer depends on the presence of others. It depends on the presence of discipline. And once you have that nothing can stop you, there comes a moment in every person's life when solitude stops being peaceful and starts feeling like a test. When the silence that once centered you begins to whisper doubts, when your discipline feels heavy, your purpose feels unclear, and every step forward feels lonelier than the last. This is the middle ground where most people turn back, because walking alone sounds noble in theory until the path gets quiet. Until there's no applause, no recognition, no comfort, only your thoughts echoing against the walls of your mind. You start to question everything. You ask yourself, is it worth it? Am I really growing, or am I just disappearing? The mind begins to play tricks, reminding you of the warmth of company, the sweetness of being seen. You remember the laughter, the validation, the belonging, and suddenly solitude begins to taste like exile. This is the conflict that breaks most people, because they mistake loneliness for failure. They think that being unseen means being forgotten, that walking alone means being left behind. But solitude isn't a punishment, it's purification. It burns away what's unnecessary. It exposes the parts of you that still crave external comfort. It confronts the illusion that you need others to make your journey meaningful. You'll feel resistance rise inside you, a pull toward distraction. You'll want to text people just to feel connected again. You'll crave noise, attention, anything to fill the void. But that void is not your enemy, it's your teacher. Because only in that emptiness can you start to build real substance within. You will wrestle with your own mind. One part of you wants to keep walking, another wants to quit. One part wants peace, the other seeks attention. And between those two forces, you'll be stretched to your limits. But that's the very tension that creates strength. The Stoics never promised an easy road. They spoke of struggle as the forge of character. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That is the essence of your conflict. The loneliness, the silence, the uncertainty, they're not blocking your path. They are the path. You see, life tests your resolve in the quiet. It asks you, will you keep your discipline when no one notices? Will you stay focused when no one is watching? Will you keep believing when there is no proof? This is where the weak turn around and the strong are made. Because the strong learn to stop bargaining with pain. They stop asking, why me? They start saying, try me. You may feel abandoned at times. You may feel unseen, unheard, unappreciated. but that's the cost of independence. Freedom doesn't come with applause, it comes with silence, and if you can withstand that silence long enough, it begins to feed you instead of frighten you. In those long nights of doubt, remember this: no one who ever built something great was understood in the beginning. No one who ever found true peace did so by staying comfortable, and no one who ever became unstoppable did so surrounded by noise. You will feel pain, the pain of detachment, of transformation, of growing beyond your old life, but that pain is sacred, because it's the sign that you're no longer the person who needs validation to move forward. There's a deeper kind of loneliness, not the absence of people, but the absence of your old self. You'll start to grieve who you used to be, the one who settled, the one who sought approval, the one who feared being misunderstood. Let that version of you die. Let it fade quietly in the silence, because only by letting go of who you were can you become who you're meant to be. You are not walking away from others, you're walking toward a higher standard of yourself. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Growth always is. But if you endure it, you'll find something extraordinary waiting on the other side. Peace that doesn't depend on circumstance. When you realize that peace is not a reward, it's a choice, you'll stop chasing the world to feel complete. You'll stop seeking comfort in places that only drained you, and you'll start to trust your own path, no matter how silent it gets. This is the inner battle, the unseen fight between your comfort and your calling. But if you can stand still in that storm, if you can stay disciplined in that doubt, if you can keep walking even when it hurts, that's when you begin to transform. Because the truth is simple, it's not the world that's testing you. It's your future self asking if you're ready to meet them. There comes a quiet day, maybe in the middle of your journey, when something shifts. You wake up, and for the first time, the silence doesn't feel heavy. It feels sacred. The same solitude that once felt like exile now feels like alignment. You realize nothing outside you has changed, only your relationship with yourself has. You begin to understand that the loneliness you felt was never about others leaving. It was about you finally arriving. Arriving in the present moment, arriving in your own strength, arriving at a place where your peace is not borrowed but built. This is the turning point. The moment you stop running from the silence and start walking with it, where solitude stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like privilege, because now you see clearly the world's noise was never guiding you, it was distracting you, and in that realization you find something you didn't even know you were searching for: control. Not control over outcomes, people, or fate, but control over yourself. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to observe instead of absorb. You begin to move not from emotion, but from awareness. That's when life begins to shift in your favor, not because it becomes easier, but because you become harder to shake. You realize that strength was never about being unhurt. It was about being unbreakable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." That single truth becomes your compass. You see that no insult, no loss, no betrayal can touch the core of a person who has mastered his perception. You start to live as a mountain does, unbothered by the winds that once moved you. People might still misunderstand you. They might still question your distance, your quiet, your detachment. But you no longer need to explain your peace to those addicted to chaos. You've learned that understanding is not owed, and validation is not required. The Stoics taught that the path to freedom begins in the mind. You can lose money, friends, reputation, but if your mind remains still, you remain powerful, and so you stop clinging to what can be taken away. You start investing in what cannot: your discipline, your virtue, your calm. You find beauty in the simplicity of your days. The quiet morning becomes your teacher, the small tasks become your training, the solitude that once felt empty now feels full because you are no longer seeking meaning, you are creating it. You begin to understand what Epictetus meant when he said, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." Solitude reveals you. It strips away the masks you wore for the world and shows you who you really are underneath. You stop performing. You stop pretending. You simply are. And that's where true power lives, not in the noise of proving, but in the silence of knowing. The turning point is not a moment of triumph, it's a moment of stillness. When you realize you don't need to chase anymore, you don't need to prove or compare or compete, because you finally understand peace is not found in victory. Peace is the victory. You start to look at challenges differently. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" You stop fearing failure because you've seen how every loss made you more resilient. You stop fearing rejection because solitude has shown you that your value was never dependent on acceptance. And something inside you settles, not in complacency, but in confidence. You begin to carry yourself differently. You walk slower, you speak less, you listen more, because now your energy is not scattered, it's centered. You no longer live to be seen, you live to see. This shift doesn't make you invincible, it makes you aware. You still face challenges, pain, uncertainty, but they no longer define you, they refine you. Because now you understand, every struggle you've endured was not meant to break you, it was meant to build your endurance. Every moment of solitude was not loneliness, it was preparation. And every silence you feared was not absence, it was space for transformation. You've learned that power isn't loud, it doesn't shout or demand attention. True power is calm. It's the stillness of a person who no longer needs to prove their worth, because they've already faced themselves and survived. And so you keep walking, not to escape, but to evolve, not to be admired, but to be aligned, because now you understand the secret few ever discover, that walking alone was never about distance. It was about direction. Awareness is not enough. Wisdom without practice is just poetry, and walking alone is not about philosophy, it's about discipline. Now that you understand solitude's power, the question becomes, how do you live it? How do you practice walking alone, not as isolation, but as mastery? The Stoics would tell you, start with the smallest moments. Your discipline isn't built in grand gestures. It's forged in silence, in choices no one sees. When your alarm rings at dawn and your mind whispers 5 more minutes, that's where the walk begins. When distractions tempt you to waste another hour, that's where solitude tests you. When no one is watching and you choose the harder path anyway, that's where self-respect is born. Walking alone doesn't mean abandoning the world. It means staying faithful to your path, even when the world doesn't understand it. It's choosing your purpose over popularity. It's choosing consistency over comfort. It's choosing patience over validation. You won't always feel strong. There will be mornings when your discipline falters, nights when your focus fades. You'll doubt your progress and question your pace. That's okay, because the goal isn't perfection, it's presence. To simply return again and again to the path, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." That's the essence of practice. You stop discussing, comparing, overthinking, and start doing. You learn to act with quiet consistency without waiting for motivation or mood. Because mastery is built on repetition, not inspiration, every day life will tempt you to break your rhythm, to chase comfort, to please others, to escape the discomfort of growth. But walking alone means you no longer negotiate with your excuses. You no longer let emotion decide your direction. You act according to principle, not impulse. It's not about being rigid, it's about being rooted, rooted in your values, rooted in your focus, rooted in your peace. The Stoics practiced daily reflection to strengthen this inner foundation. At night, they would review their actions and ask, "What did I do well? What could I have done better? What will I do differently tomorrow?" No judgment, no guilt, just awareness and correction. That is the path of mastery, not self-criticism, but self-honesty, and every day you'll notice subtle shifts. You'll start reacting less and responding more. You'll find joy in simple things, in the sunrise, the quiet cup of coffee, the feeling of calm after completing your work. You'll begin to realize that peace is built through structure, not through chance. You will also face people who test your silence. They'll question your detachment. They'll label your stillness as arrogance, your discipline as coldness. Let them. You've learned that silence is not emptiness, it's elegance. You no longer need to explain your focus to those who thrive on noise. Instead, you conserve your energy. You redirect it inward into reading, creating, reflecting, training, building. Your solitude becomes your workshop. Every quiet hour becomes a brick in the foundation of the life you're constructing. You'll notice something powerful. When you stop chasing approval, your work improves. When you stop reacting, your energy stabilizes. When you stop explaining yourself, your confidence grows. That's the paradox of walking alone. The less you need the world, the more value you bring to it. Because your energy is no longer scattered across 100 external battles. It's focused on mastering the only one that matters, the battle within. Practice means making peace a habit. It means choosing calm when chaos calls your name. It means breathing deeply when emotions rise. It means holding your ground when the world tries to rush you. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." So don't resist difficulty, welcome it. Each test of solitude, each moment of discomfort, is a chance to practice strength. Remember, the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more presence. The kind of presence that comes from someone who has faced themselves, disciplined themselves, mastered themselves. Someone who doesn't chase calm because they are calm. And that's your daily work, to walk quietly, to act purposefully, to stay true even when unseen. Because greatness is never built in crowds. It's built in the unseen hours, in silence, in patience, in consistency. When you live this way, walking alone stops being lonely. It becomes powerful. You stop waiting for life to prove your worth and start proving it to yourself, one action at a time. That's the practice, that's the path, and soon you realize something profound. You no longer need to become unstoppable. You already are. And then one day you'll wake up and realize something has changed. You'll look around and see that the noise that once pulled you apart no longer reaches you. The same storms that once unsettled your peace now pass through you like wind through trees. You've walked alone for so long that solitude no longer feels like absence. It feels like alignment. You move differently now. You speak less, but when you do, your words carry weight. You no longer rush to respond, to prove, to explain. You understand what Epictetus meant when he said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." You've learned the art of stillness not as inaction, but as precision. Your movements are fewer, but they are deliberate. Your actions are slower, but they are stronger. And most importantly, your mind no longer bends to chaos. You don't chase peace anymore. You protect it, because now you understand. Peace is not a place you arrive at, it's a boundary you maintain. When you walk alone long enough, you begin to see how the world really works. You see how people hurry through life, desperate to be seen, desperate to be heard, never realizing that true strength is silent. You see how many confuse activity with progress, and how few ever learn the discipline of patience. You see how noise drowns wisdom, and how silence amplifies it. You stop fighting what's outside and start mastering what's within. You stop trying to win arguments and start winning over your impulses. You stop seeking control over others and start finding control over yourself. And that is when you become truly unstoppable. Because what can the world do to someone who has conquered his own mind? Nothing. You have faced loneliness, and it no longer frightens you. You have faced rejection, and it no longer defines you. You have faced doubt, and it no longer limits you. You have learned to stand in the middle of uncertainty and remain unmoved. That's what walking alone teaches you, not to avoid the darkness, but to become light within it. You realize you don't need to be understood. You don't need to be followed. You don't even need to be remembered. You just need to be calm, clear, grounded, disciplined. Because the person who walks alone walks with truth, and truth never needs to shout. You'll notice people start to return, not because you chase them, but because your silence began to speak louder than their noise. Your calm begins to attract what chaos once repelled. Your stillness becomes strength. Your solitude becomes gravity. But you won't walk with arrogance. You'll walk with grace, because true mastery never flaunts itself. It simply exists quietly, fully, without resistance. You understand that the journey was never about rising above others. It was about rising above your former self. Seneca once said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." And so you keep walking, not because you're lost, but because the path itself has become the destination. Each day becomes a meditation, each choice a reflection of discipline, each silence a statement of peace. You no longer seek comfort in company, you find it in clarity. You no longer depend on recognition, you find reward in routine. You no longer chase purpose, you become purpose. And when people ask how you did it, how you built peace in a world that thrives on chaos, you'll smile gently and say nothing. Because the answer is not in words, it's in how you carry yourself. It's in the stillness of your presence. It's in the quiet power of someone who no longer runs from solitude, but walks within it. You'll know you've become unstoppable the moment you realize you don't need to win to feel whole. You just need to stay true, steady, and silent. For the one who walks alone walks with wisdom, and the one who walks with wisdom never truly walks alone.